successful but temperamental heart surgeon, Dr. Sutorius, had just divorced his wife of 30 years. It looked like a brand new start for the affluent doctor, but little did he know what life had in store for him. Sutorius of Columbiana, Ohio, was born on March 2nd, 1940. His journey led him to become a renowned and prosperous heart surgeon who displayed unwavering attention to his vocation, investing extensive hours within the hospital walls. It was in this professional realm that he crossed paths with Janet, a nurse who would later become his wife and the mother of their 4 children. Janet often recounted Daryl's perpetual busyness, forever on call, immersed in his medical pursuits. Dr. Sutorius' resolute commitment bore fruit, culminating in an annual income of $300,000 during the 1980s, a substantial sum by the standards of the era, equivalent to a staggering $1.1 million in today's currency. However, this financial prosperity exacted a profound personal toll. Regrettably, it was his marriage that endured the heaviest toll. According to accounts from his wife and associates, Daryl displayed an unrelenting need for control, often resorting to injurious and verbally abusive language, leaving those in his proximity emotionally scarred. Curiously, amidst this turbulent picture, there existed a genuine concern for his family's welfare and his role as their provider and caregiver. Janet, however, unable and unwilling to endure her husband's domineering demeanor anymore, initiated divorce proceedings after 3 decades of matrimony, securing a substantial portion of the family's wealth in the settlement. Post-divorce, Daryl found himself grappling with loneliness. He was separated from his children and confronted personal challenges concerning his physical and mental well-being. As he experienced mounting isolation and sank deeper into depression, in 1994, Dr. Sutorius decided to explore a new avenue for companionship, enlisting the services of a dating agency, The Great Expectations. It was perhaps unsurprising that, given his high-strung personality, he sought a partner who would agree with him without question, offering unwavering affirmation and positivity, a beacon of light in his life. After submitting his photograph and personal details to the dating site, it didn't take long for the service to arrange a date for him. Enter Dante, a 45-year-old beautiful woman with a gorgeous body, deemed a fitting match for the enigmatic surgeon. On the dating platform, Dante portrayed herself as the owner of a daycare center, recently separated from her spouse and a proud UCLA graduate. Descriptions painted her as a charming petite woman with a beautiful body. Upon entering a room, she exuded a bright and infectious energy that unmistakably conveyed that she is the complete package, and everyone around her felt the need to seize the opportunity to capture her attention and win her over. Their connection seemed tailor-made for bliss, and Daryl commenced pampering Dante, a gesture she relished wholeheartedly. Daryl was described by Dante as pleasant, friendly, and depressed. And although there were certain issues that the doctor had in the bedroom, it didn't seem to bother her one little bit. 4 months later, they were married. Residing in an opulent residence nestled on the prestigious Simmeridge Lane in Cincinnati, Dante indulged in spa retreats, cruised in a luxury Lexus, and owned a trio of lavish fur coats and a $5,000 engagement ring, all this while evading the demands of conventional employment. However, despite this extravagant lifestyle, it left her craving for more. Dante, it appeared, yearned for it all. Even the doctor's unreserved generosity toward his 4 children from his previous marriage provoked her to fits of anger and hostility. Every time Darrell allocated funds to his children, Dante responded by inflating the credit card balance, engaging in lavish purchases of designer bags, shoes, and accessories, all with the intention of provoking him. When she discovered that Dr. Sutorius intended to finance his daughter Deborah's wedding, her fury flared to such an extent that it compelled him to take precautionary measures, including wearing a bulletproof vest, even in the operating room, knowing that his wife had purchased a .38 caliber double-action revolver and took shooting lessons. Prompted by Dante's actions, Darrell made the decision to delve into an investigation of his wife, seeking to unravel her true identity. What he unearthed was, to say the least, deeply disturbing. Born under the name Della Hall, she later adopted the name Dante. Her early years were spent on the West Side. Her father passed away while she was still a child, and her mother eventually remarried. At the age of 19, Della Hall fell pregnant and entered a brief marriage with her first husband, then another 5-year marriage with her second husband. Both marriages were marked by allegations of neglect and cruelty on both sides. She soon fled for California to live with her sister, leaving behind her preteen daughter, who would eventually end up in foster care. A few years later, she married 2 more times, the third marriage ending after 8 months, and the fourth after 2 years. The good doctor was her 5th husband. Not that he knew any of that. Dante was characterized as someone who always needed to have the last word, and when she decided to terminate her relationship, it typically ended in drama. Dr. Sutorius also came across information suggesting that Dante had a track record of violence. It was reported that she had allegedly used a firearm to threaten her 4th husband, pulled a knife at her 3rd husband, and in another shocking incident, she had drugged one of her spouses, set his bed on fire, and when he awoke, he was engulfed in flames, yet miraculously survived. In less than a year since their marriage, the doctor found himself retreating to the basement for the night, consulting with an attorney about the prospect of excluding Dante from his will and pursuing a divorce. He also implored his family members not to divulge any personal information to his wife. His struggle with depression had become so pronounced that he openly confided in colleagues about his dark thoughts of taking his own life, while at the same time fearing for it. On February 19, 1996, Dr. Sutorius had a meeting with his divorce lawyer to sign divorce paper. However, he was conspicuously absent. He was also absent from work and remained unresponsive to all attempts to contact him. When the police arrived at the Sutorius residence, Della professed ignorance regarding her husband's whereabouts. She agreed to a house search when the authorities requested it. Notably, Dr. Sutorius's car remained parked in the garage, and the foul odor was lingering in the air. As the police diligently combed through the garage, Dante returned to the house and ventured into the basement. There, she let out a chilling cry, exclaiming, "Oh my God! Oh my God! I found him!" Dr. Sutorius was discovered lifeless in the basement, bearing a gunshot wound to his head. A .38 caliber revolver lay on the floor nearby. At first glance, it looked like the doctor had eventually decided to take his own life. The position of the gunshot wound and the proximity of the firearm to his body appeared to align with the characteristics of self-inflicted harm. Significant quantities of dried blood and the onset of rigor mortis indicated that he had passed away at least 1 or 2 days earlier. It seemed that Darrell had been inebriated, possibly watching television in the basement when the event happened. Colleagues and family members were already aware of his tendencies, as he had confided in them, and even his lawyer held suspicion. Upon learning of his demise, their prevailing assumption was that he had followed through on his previously expressed thoughts. However, the authorities' examination of the firearm yielded a startling revelation. It was registered to none other than Della Sutorius, and it had been purchased just 24 hours prior to the discovery of Daryl's lifeless body. When they questioned Della, she claimed not to have heard any gunshots from the basement, although neighbors had reported a loud noise after midnight. Upon the arrival of forensic scientists at the scene, a series of puzzling inconsistencies quickly came to light. They immediately observed that 2 gunshots had been discharged. One of them hit the sofa cushion. This struck the investigators as unusual, and further details led them to conclude that Dr. Sutorius's right hand had likely been in his lap at the time of the fatal shot, which means he couldn't have been holding the gun. Furthermore, the blood present on the couch in front of the body drew scrutiny. Given its 45-degree angle and the fact that Dr. Sutorius was lying on the couch, it was impossible that the blood had emanated from him. Instead, it appears as though someone else with blood on their hands had flung it onto the couch, similar to flicking water off wet hands. The discovery of a second bullet added to the mystery and prompted speculation that Dr. Sutorius may have test-fired the first shot before discharging the fatal round. However, the presence of gunpowder burns on the doctor's right hand on the sofa, overlaying the blood, indicated that the blood had been present prior to the second shot. Upon a more thorough examination of the body, it became evident that the scene had been meticulously staged. Dante, his wife, was the sole individual present in the house at the time, raising questions about her possible motive. Money emerged as the primary incentive. As Daryl Sutorius's wife, she stood to inherit his pension plan. In the event of a divorce, her monthly payout would have been in the range of $1,000 to $2,000. However, his demise would entitle her to a substantial sum of $1 million. In a fascinating turn of events, it was Dante's mother who took it upon herself to contact the police. She adamantly asserted that Daryl hadn't taken his own life, and that it was her daughter who did it. Dante was subsequently arrested and charged with murder. As per the findings of forensic experts and law enforcement, Daryl had been in the basement at approximately 2 a.m. on the fateful night of the murder. He was drinking and watching TV when Dante approached him from the back and discharged her .38 caliber revolver, delivering a fatal shot to the head. Subsequently, Della strategically placed the weapon in Daryl's hand and fired a second shot to eliminate any potential gunpowder residue on his hand. However, the positioning of blood and gunshots burns revealed her efforts to mask the circumstances. As she manipulated the crime scene, Della inadvertently acquired blood on her hands, which she subsequently dispersed, leaving it to form a conspicuous 45-degree pattern on the front of the sofa. During the trial, apart from the natural details of the murder scene, a series of incredible stories were revealed by past and present friends and family. From the very outset, Daryl's friends found the entire affair rather peculiar. Their attempts to meet the new girlfriend were consistently thwarted, leaving them puzzled. While Daryl would present Dante's virtues to his friends, he remained reticent about providing further details. It was obvious that he had fallen head over heels. A witness who observed them together before their marriage noted Daryl's almost adolescent devotion, while another reported that Dante exhibited a noticeable air of aloofness. Dante's demeanor may have been influenced by her simultaneous involvement with several suitors at the time. During her trial, her half-sister testified that in late 1994, while unemployed, Dante confided that her financial resources were dwindling. When her sister suggested securing employment, Dante responded by disclosing her romantic entanglements with several men, one of whom she regarded as a serious prospect. Dante's fourth ex-husband recounted a peculiar Christmas dinner hosted by Dante. All the other guests were single men, turning it into something of a lonely guys' club. Dante played the role of the charming and flirtatious hostess, while Daryl assumed the responsibilities of the cook. In February, Dante and Daryl visited a jewelry showroom to select a dazzling diamond wedding band. The ring was purchased promptly. An observer noted that when Daryl bent down to kiss Dante, her response was a mere peck on the cheek, which struck them as curiously lacking in passion. Around this time, Daryl presented Dante with a prenuptial agreement concerning his pension fund. Dante adamantly refused to sign it, raising potential concerns. However, this did not deter Daryl's enthusiasm. In March, upon his return from a Florida trip, he proudly displayed a picture of Dante taken during their holiday, announcing to a colleague, "We're married." The couple seemed to know remarkably little about each other, perhaps due to the clouded judgment brought about by their love. Previous husbands also failed to receive comprehensive accounts of her previous marriages before tying the knot. Instead, she regaled them with accounts of her liaisons with several noteworthy Cincinnati figures, including former mayor Jerry Springer. A spokeswoman for Springer later refuted any connection with Dante. However, the investigation leading up to the trial unearthed further individuals with clearer memories. This included men she knew in the late 1970s and early 1980s. One former boyfriend believed that she had set fire to his bed while he slept, while another claimed that she had burned down his house. According to one man who dated her in the early 1980s, she initially appeared to be sweet and introverted. They went out a couple of times, and their relationship eventually turned romantic. Despite her fastidiousness about cleanliness in public places, such as not touching her food in a fast food restaurant if a carpet sweeper had recently passed by, her own residence was a stark contrast, with dirty dishes piling up in the sink and used paper plates in the trash. Paying rent proved to be a persistent challenge for Dante. She often faced difficulties maintaining steady employment, and her ex-boyfriend reported that he initially sympathized with her struggles. However, her tendency to sporadically miss work soon became apparent. He recalled that her recurring narrative was one of perpetual mistreatment, and at the time, he believed it could be true. Gradually, he became aware of the consequences for those who failed to treat her right, and it was her chronic jealousy that eventually drove him away. When he broached the subject of ending their relationship, they decided to meet to discuss it. Dante arrived an hour late, reeking of a campfire. They discussed the relationship, and remarkably, she was agreeable when he suggested they should just be friends. Upon his return home that night, he discovered that his house had been consumed by a fire, determined to be arson. A few weeks later, Dante called him, claiming that she feared she was pregnant. However, he promptly calculated the impossibility of her pregnancy by him. Her response was ominous. "I should have killed you when I had the chance." Details about her life in California remain sketchy, though Hamilton County prosecutors enlisted Los Angeles investigators to delve into her past. Dante seemed to engage in a pattern of frequent partying and sporadic employment, often quitting her jobs whenever she moved in with a new partner. A man she lived with in LA claimed she threw a knife during a fit of jealousy, and after their breakup reported that someone had tampered with the brakes on his car by pouring motor oil on them. Dante's sister, Donna Hall, shared a number of wild, largely unverified stories. One of the most sensational claims was that Dante had a boyfriend who mysteriously disappeared, with Dante allegedly admitting to his murder. Although LA homicide investigators were unable to locate a missing person report to corroborate the story, this did not deter Hall from attending the trial and publicly disclosing details about Dante's years in California. Prosecutors contend that Hall believed her sister had returned to Cincinnati to escape her dark past. In Cincinnati, at Benjamin's Bar, now defunct, at Garfield Place, a woman with a soft, childlike voice asked a man, "Are you a genius?" This woman was Dante. Grant Bassett, a computer graphics specialist recovering from a divorce, bashfully disavowed her label of genius. To his surprise, she proceeded to shower him with compliments, asserting that she believed he was indeed a genius. Before long, Bassett found himself captivated by this charming, sweet Dante, who admired his business acumen and marveled at his talent. He was touched by her tales of a difficult life, including accounts of childhood abuse. She heaped praise upon him and expressed his gratitude for his kindness. On the first chilly day of autumn, he bought her a coat because she claimed never to have owned a winter coat before. As she sat in his car, she sang, "This is so wonderful. GB is so wonderful." Bassett recounted her peculiar penchant for speaking like a child, which nonetheless had a peculiar charm that worked on him. However, things soon took a different turn. She began to demean him, mocking him for his accent and subjecting him to all sorts of unpleasantries. An explosive argument led to a 911 call, with Dante shrieking at him via the extension. The incident ultimately landed Bassett in jail. The man shared that Dante would exploit his vulnerabilities, with her threats designed to undermine his self-worth. David Britton, an Englishman working in the United States on a visa, was informed by Dante that she was pregnant shortly before he accepted a 5-month job. They married on Valentine's Day in 1992, although Britton discovered that she was 6 years older than she had originally told him. She soon quit her job and refrained from working both inside and outside the home. Jealousy became a pervasive issue, with Dante tracking his movements and engaging in confrontations. These disputes occasionally led to 911 calls. Similar to previous husbands, Britton's relationship with Dante was riddled with threats. She warned him that she would kill him if he cheated on her, and would have him deported if he left her, given his lack of a green card. Britton chose to endure the situation to maintain his legal status, despite owning a firearm that could be used by his wife. Friends advised him to hide the ammunition. Their divorce eventually materialized, although not before he was arrested for assaulting her. This charge was later dismissed. In Britton's view, revenge was Dante's recurring motif. She was very big on revenge. Whatever was done to her, she got back 10 times over. I think that's why she killed him. Even Della's mother has dubbed her the Black Widow Spider, depicting her as a fortune hunter who achieved success by attaching herself to prosperous men. The judge in this case likened Della to a lionfish, which entices its prey with its striking stripes before employing its venomous spines to deliver a fatal blow. Prosecutors harbored a high degree of confidence in Della as the primary suspect, substantiated by both the forensic evidence and her apparent motive. Following only 4 hours of deliberation, the jury rendered a verdict of guilty against Della, charging her with aggravated murder She received a life sentence with the possibility of parole in 2014. She was confined to the Ohio Reformatory for Women, where she ultimately passed away from natural causes on November 20th, 2010. Daryl made the decision to leave Janet and his 4 children in his pursuit of happiness during the time he had left to live. It was evident to friends that he experienced profound loneliness, both within and outside his marriage, and he yearned for someone to fill the void. However, it is widely acknowledged that Daryl was not an easy individual to live with. He displayed moodiness, demanded perfection, and had a volatile temper. His dissatisfaction and frequent outbursts created a rift between him and his family. His reputation at work was no different. Even in a field known for tempers, egos, and arrogance, he stood out as challenging. His friends and colleagues readily admit that his temper was his greatest flaw. Yet, his hot temper coexisted with exceptional surgical expertise. Those who collaborated with him attested to his superb technical skills and his fearlessness in tackling complex cardiac cases. Despite outbursts that could send nurses running for cover and rattle the dinner table at home, he displayed remarkable composure during surgical crises. According to one colleague and mentor, in an operating room, Daryl could control situations that were uncontrollable. Unfortunately, in his own life, things weren't so easy to control. Daryl Sutorius had the misfortune to meet a black widow who couldn't care less about his needs and wants and talents, and was only using him for her own benefit. Some people should come with warning labels. Unfortunately, they don't, and it's up to all of us to know better and protect ourselves and our dear ones from the demented individuals out there. Always keep in mind that if something or someone seems too good to be true, he probably is. Take care of yourselves and each other. Life is a precious gift.